Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to TRTM for tonight's coverage of the first round of the Race Club UK Shooting Stars Cup. As always, I'm Regan Clark. You join us here at the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari, otherwise going by Imola, former home of the San Marino turned Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, and founded in 1953. In the modern configuration, it's 19 turns and just a smidge over 3 miles of FIA Grade 1. A fantastically technical circuit to mark the opening battleground for this League v League v League v League Interleague series, all in the name of charity. We watch here with Wishful Winnings making his way out of the field, but let's get swiftly into the conversation of why we're here. Well, taking a look then into the event regulations for today, we're coming to the final 10 minutes of free practice. Around the corner is 15 minutes of qualifying and 90 minutes of racing, of which 2 mandatory pit stops for both fuel and tyres. Taking a look into the very nature of the Shooting Stars Cup from a statement from Race Control. The Shooting Stars Cup is proudly run in support of charity. We warmly welcome a voluntary donation from each participating driver. A recommended donation of £10 can be made directly via the official Just Giving page, and for those tuning in, that's just been pasted into the Twitch chat. It'll be available in the YouTube description for the VOD release of this live stream. Shooting Stars Children's Hospices provide specialist care and support to families who have a baby, child or young person with a life-limiting condition or whose child has died. Their purpose is simple but powerful: to help every family make every moment count. Across Surrey and London, their teams support families from diagnosis through end-of-life care and throughout bereavement, providing nursing, medical, emotional and practical support when it is needed the most. Their care is available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, supporting over 1,000 families and more than 2,000 individuals, including siblings, parents and grandparents. It costs around £12 million each year to provide this vital care. With only 29% of funding coming from the government, they rely heavily on fundraising and community support. Crucially, 82p of every pound raised goes directly towards caring for children and supporting families. For those of you tuning in on the Twitch chat, you'll see, just to mention there, that the Just Giving link for the Shooting Stars Cup is in the chat there. All of the proceeds of that going straight to Shooting Stars charity. And it's really quite a special thing behind this championship. And so, moving on from why we're here, let's see who's here. Taking a look at the teams to have entered this championship, starting off with the hosts of the Shooting Stars Cup. It's Race Club UK's lineup: Ben Godden, Nick Lamming, Chris Leish, Konstantinos Chitos, Richard Hall, Mark Sedgwick, Noor Farah, Spike Hart, James Burns, Chris Clement, Andy McKay, Lars Rammensberger, Tom Hacker and Roll Hermsen. Then approaching as the challengers to this series, the America's Racing League of Nico Prince, Steve McMillan, David Bender, Alonso Amador, Brett Butler, Juancy Ampuero, M. Wright, Amado Dominguez, The Jackal, David Bacala, Benjamin Huston, Andre Martins, Mike Dolce and Shadrach Callejas. Then a familiar face to us here on TRTN, it's the folks at VSR joining us for this championship as the third party. Robert Ogan, Kieran Rodd, Sean McNally, Lee Evans, Antonio Angeletta, Wishful Winnings, Ian Oates, Lewis Perslow, Ben Bingham, Carlos Deesh, Fake Galaxy, Solomon Bosworth, Chris Millard, Martin Richard Daly and Chris Davies. Last but not least then, the folks over at Simplay Motorsports join us as the fourth league in contention. Benedict Varga, Benjamin Rook, Yelmer Bergsma, Gary Leach, Craig Stoddard, Richard Betterson, Brett Winspear, Alistair Cummins, Matthias Claes, Michael Harris, Thomas Cardno, William Cairns, Ian McGowan and Francois St. Ludovic. Well, we have 4 parties in all then, and it is going to be an exciting introduction to this series then. Taking a look on board, we're still on board with Wishful Winnings, but getting a look throughout the field today, we'll get into the conversation right off the bat, A, of the timings in the final 10 minutes of qualifying, and B, of the balance of performance right around the corner to 15 minutes of quali, where we see Carlos Deesh fastest in the session so far, ahead of William Cairns and Fake Galaxy in that top 3 at the moment. Across the line, we just see here Galaxy now driving for Mercedes, a curious sign indeed. Wishful Winnings right behind him in 4th place, and Ben Godden rounds out the top 5. We see here Hall in 6th, ahead of Hermsen in 7th, Hacker 8th, Leach 9th, and McKay rounds out the top 10. Thomas Cardno in 11th, ahead of Chris Clement in 12th, Francois St. Ludovic in 13th, and Lars Rammensberger in 14th. Solomon Bosworth rounds out that top 15 at the moment, with Chris Leish in 16th. Nico Prince in 17th, ahead of Craig Stoddard in 18th, with Alistair Cummins in 19th, and Juancy Ampuero in 20th. Mark Sedgwick 21st, with Andre Martins in 22nd. One thing to note as well there, special livery for the 404, black and gold, as opposed to the bright blues that we see here for the Team ARL lineup. Benedict Varga 23rd, ahead of Nick Lamming in 24th across the line. Richard Betterson 25th, with Antonio Angeletta in 26th. Alonso Amador pulls to one side there, 27th on the field at the moment, with Sean McNally in 28th. We see here Dominguez in 19th, ahead of the Jackal in 20th. McMillan 31st. Not 20th, sorry, 30th. Lewis Purslow 32nd with Robert Ogan 33rd. We see here Bender 34th with Butler 35th, Evans 36th, and Wright 37th. A fully stacked out grid here. One of the largest I think we've ever seen here on Assetto Corsa. Now, that does raise some concerns to us before, but I'm fairly sure, and I was reassured by Race Control that everything would be fine in the conversations we had with them. Upper cap limits for medium tracks is in and around the 40 to 45 range before we run into any video memory errors. On the grounds that should happen, not saying that it will, but on the grounds that it happens, then sadly that will have to be handled as and when it arrives. Well, so far then, in the last 4 minutes of free practice, we're on board once again with Wishful Winnings. We started the broadcast off with, let's take a look at the balance of performance. Well, it's being introduced from LFM, so it means 20% restrictors for the Mustangs on screen at the moment. That's in addition to 10 kilos off. So there's really sort of a swings and roundabout situation here for the Ford Motor Company. As always, under LFM BOFP, they're the only manufacturer to be taking engine restrictions. Meanwhile then, Ferrari lose 30 kilos, Bentley lose 19, Honda lose 14, and Ford lose 10. Nissan lose 6, BMW and Aston Martin are neutral, with Lamborghini gaining 2, Mercedes and Porsche gaining 11, McLaren gaining 12, and the Ferrari 296 gaining 13 kilos. So a real cornucopia of available changes coming in to the first round of the championship here in Imola. Catching on board with some drivers making their way down towards the line here. We see with the 101 of Tom Hacker with Race Club UK. He'll be our unofficial tour guide here in Imola. So beginning the run down towards the Variante Tambirello. We're on board with Race Club UK's Tom Hacker. In through the run of turns 2, 3 and 4, the Variante Tambirello. Very tricky opening section, then on with the number 101, making his way down towards the Variante Villeneuve here in the last 3 minutes of free practice. Qualifying just around the corner, and we even have a look at a comprehensive top 10 prediction for quali. So what a treat we're in for tonight here in Imola. At the moment then, we see 37 cars in attendance. Down through then the run of the Aqua Minerale out through Piratella. Now heading up towards the Variante outer turns 14 and 15, ultra narrow section of the track coming up here, down through to turn 14, then turn 15. And they have to scoot over these curbs here, and that's what creates these issues, which we see there for Tom Hacker, as that brings to a premature end his current run of the flying laps. We'll go to catch on board with another driver making their way to a very similar section of the track. We see here with Sean McNally, up in front of him Chris Clements in the number 15 Race Club UK BMW. We're on with McNally here in the number 4 VSR Nissan. Making his way then down towards Ravazza. Turn 16 through 18. Clements gives way to the number 4, down through to turn 17, but running out wide. Trouble for Sean McNally. So it seems that, our efforts to try and find someone to give us a full track tour, we are running out of drivers here. Catching on board with Andre Martins with Team ARL, the America's Racing League lineup. Watching here with Martins on his run down through Ravazza. Turn 17, then turn 18. Gives us the run down towards turn 19 at the end of this flying lap. Martins, as it stands at the moment, 22nd on the field. As he crosses the line into the final minute of free practice, he'll have one more go around the track before the end of practice today, ahead of 15 minutes of qualifying. So not a lot of time to play with for these drivers, 37 in all. One of the highest grid numbers we've seen here in Imola. It's going to make for a very exciting race to follow. Watching with a few of the other drivers here, we see with Lewis Purslow tucked in behind Alonso Amador and Ben Godden with Team ARL and Race Club UK, the 81 and the 95. We're on board here with the 32. So taking a look then into that top 5, and these are the 5 to keep a very close eye out for in the qualifying today. Carlos Diche, Francois St. Ludovic, William Cairns, Fake Galaxy and Wishful Winnings. Also worth taking a note there of all of the drivers to be within a second of that fastest. That comprises, at this time, 11 positions, and a staggeringly high statistic there. As you see across the line, our current wad of drivers. So that goes all the way from Diche to Leish, from 1st to 11th there. We see primarily Fords in that grid, so it seems even in spite of LFM's balance of performance tweaks to the 7th generation Mustang, it's done little to curb its dominant presence. Of all of those cars to be within a second of the fastest time, taking a look at there, including the fastest car itself, as we see trouble there for Purslow down through the Variante Villeneuve. We see, as it stands there, currently 5 of the cars comprising that top 11 are manufactured by the Ford Motor Company. This does lay in a very concerning sign then, overbalance on the GT3 field. Of course, we have seen throughout the years that LFM has been quite quick to try and work into solutions to curb the Ford, but really it's a case, you can curb the machine, but can you curb the man within? Badish, St. Ludovic, Winnings, Bosworth, and all the way down to 11th there for Leish. Seems that is not the case. You see here for Leish down across the line. We're about to get on to the 15 minutes of qualifying just around the corner then. Leish into the top 10. So that makes 5 Fords of 10 positions inside of that top 10. A 50% presence. That is quite the statistic to bring home then for the Ford Motor Company right in the opening practice of the season. Of course, 4 rounds in all for the Shooting Stars Cup. And taking a look at where we'll be after Imola today, we head to the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps on the 28th of March. On the 18th of April, we head to the Brands Hatch Circuit. And then on the 16th of May, we head to Bathurst. Well, before that, we've got qualifying, and it's 15 minutes here in Imola. We see here from the grid already a very lively start. We see there down towards the front, William Cairns and Carlos Disch, the first drivers among the fray. We'll stick on board with the Ford whilst we get into the topic of the qualifying predictions and then catch on board with William Cairns to be the first driver onto the flying laps today. Of course, 15 minutes against the clock here in Imola. Taking a look at those qualifying predictions, Cairns predicted at pole position then with a 140.727. Fake Galaxy predicted in second place ahead of Carlos Disch on your screens at the moment. The 2 VSR drivers second and third with a 140.842 and a 140.977. Francois St. Ludovic for Simplay Racing finds himself in 4th place, up and ahead of Matthias Claes to round out the top 5. So it's a primarily VSR and Simplay Motorsports top 5. It's only until 7th place till we discover anyone from Race Club UK, that being Chris Clements, 7th fastest, and Ben Godden in 8th. Before them, though, Ian McGowan in 6th. Right, the only ARL driver in the top 10 on predictions here, 9th place in the Lamborghini, 141.662. Up and ahead of Chris Leish to round out the top 10, 141.687. A razor-thin top 10 then in qualifying. We'll be sure to bring that up over the course of the qualifying session at large. But let's go to catch on board then with that leading BMW. William Cairns, the man predicted on pole position for today. As we can see, it is a whole swarm of machines taking to the track today, but looking to get on board then with the leading BMW. The 229 of William Cairns, our leading driver then on the opening charge, on with the Simplay Motorsports BMW. As it stands then, 37 cars in attendance for round 1 of the championship. 4 leagues go head-to-head for a team's championship, all in the name of charity for the Shooting Stars Children's Hospice. Starting things off on this epic journey then, round 1 of 4 here in Imola. On board then with Cairns. The first of our flying laps, and we'll see that it will be traffic aloof here for the 229. Things are not going to be easy even for the front runners of this would-be qualifying session. Heading down through Tamburello for the first time. We see that up in front is Dominguez in the number 8. Given the lights there to move out of the way of Cairns, that he does so. He caught him in a very good spot there in between the 2 Variantes in the opening sector to already make his way up and around the outside. Now in towards Tosa, turn 7, one of our major attacking spots on track today. Keep a close eye to this open hairpin left uphill, because this is where we're going to see plenty of drivers try and lodge one up the inside. Now up through the Piratella, over the crest, in towards turn 9 and 10 we go. Then on the run downhill towards Acqua Minerale. Possibly the most iconic section here of the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari. A literal translation of the International Autodromo of Enzo and Dino Ferrari. Up towards the Variante Alta. Quickly stumbling on here to David Bender in the number 64 Aston. He moves over to one side, so even in spite of traffic in front of him, he's been able to carve through like a hot knife through butter. So for William Cairns, this looks to be a rather enthusiastic start for the Simplay Motorsports team and for BMW, making his way out through Ravazza, then down towards the line. Cairns to become the de facto time of the session so far, with 11.5 minutes left to go in the first qualifying of the season. It's Cairns to the line. Let's see what he can put on the charts. The 229 across the line we go, 141.387. Then from behind him onto the charts, I believe we're about to see there from, yes, the 111, that being Hall with Race Club UK. Then we see Fate Galaxy from behind him. We also see, I believe that to be, that's not Carlos Dish, it is one of the other VSR cars. I believe that to be Wishful Winnings, actually, as it stood. Also on the charts goes Roll Hermson, Thomas Cardno, Antonio Angeletta, and Francois St. Ludovic on your screens at the moment. The number 99, 8th fastest, as we see there. Great start to things for Race Club UK. Getting a car up into that top 3. Moreover, 2 cars in the top 5, courtesy of Hall and Hermson for third and fourth, I should say, Audi and BMW. And we see here for Wright, a driver that we've actually seen earlier on today over on the Competizione Performance League World Series. We saw him compete with Lexus, so the jump across from Lexus to Lamborghini is definitely quite the culture shock. Right at this time in 7th place, ahead of Lars Rammensperger across the line a moment ago into 8th, with Evans as it stands there 6th place, just tucks in behind that top 5. At the moment then, Cairns from Galaxy, our top 2 in the session thus far. The 146 coming to the line not long from now, so we've got to catch on board here. This is Juancy Ampuero. Behind him, the number 15 BMW. That's Chris Clements. So down to the line we go. For Ampuero, doesn't look like a time on the charts there, sadly, for him. So we'll wait to see from Chris Clements. What's that going to be for the number 15 across the line a moment ago? And as we see for Clements, that's 3rd fastest. So Race Club really coming into this one with a vengeance for the first quali of the season. From behind them, we saw across the line, I believe that was the number 95 there, Ben Godden, into the top 5. So as it stands, Race Club UK, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th inside of that top 10, with Rammensperger and McKay 10th and 11th just outside of it. 9.5 minutes left to go. Bear in mind, these times are going to be pouring in here. It's going to be very, very difficult for everyone to keep track of everything. We see here for Thomas Cardno, one driver we've just caught to the line, goes from 8th to 5th. It's also worth pointing out Simplay now top the time in charts in a 1-2 rolling formation. As we see here for Francois St. Ludovic, currently the fastest in the session by 102 thousandths of a second. That's not to take away from how razor-thin things have been from behind with Cairns v Galaxy. Tom Hacker onto the charts there, 5th fastest in the 101. Number 10, number 42 coming to the line as well. We see for the number 10, Nico Prince there. Was momentarily 12th. That is now in, was momentarily 13th as well, but is now down to 14th. That is only change over the course of this event. Solomon Bosworth of Team VSR now into 6th in the number 42 Ford. Going up ahead of Gary Leach with Simplay Motorsports. Number 292 across the line a moment ago. And as it stands there for Andy McKay, that's 18th for Aston Martin. So as it stands, St. Ludovic, Cairns, Galaxy, Hermson, Hacker, and I was about to say Bosworth, but as we see there, Clements, now 4th fastest. From behind, the number 169 crossed the line. That was Craig Stoddard to 17th. The 229 coming up to the line here, William Cairns. Can he retake pole position from Francois St. Ludovic? Yes, he can, by 175 thousandths. The 55 among the cars coming to the line here. So we're about to see from Fate Galaxy. Up in front of him there, you can see, was the BMW. I believe that to be the 111. So that was, as it stood there, that's Hall in the 111. As we just saw for Fate Galaxy, up to the fastest time for Galaxy. A great, great hustle so far for him in that 55 AMG. It was a bit of a bizarre choice. Of course, we've seen Fate Galaxy go 4 on the trot for race wins in the trailing end of last season on VSR. And that was in his time with Ford. So that move over to Mercedes, this could be a rather tantalizing mix-up here for the number 55. Speaking of Team VSR, Carlos Dish, 4th fastest in the session as it stands right now. We see here, tucked up in front of the 55 on track, on board with Race Club UK's Richard Hall in the 111. 7 minutes left to go. Those times are just going to keep hammering in over the course of this session, but I'm starting to see a very recurring trend when you look into that top 15. Greater bulk of it is divided amongst two key manufacturers, BMW and Ford. Now, albeit they're both playing second fiddle to Mercedes right now, courtesy of that last time by Fate Galaxy. A 140.847, that's 23 thousandths up over William Cairns' fastest, and that's nearly 2/10 up over what is now a joint third between Francois St. Ludovic and Carlos Disch. We see here for Richard Hall, he's displaced down a position there from 5th to 6th by the recent advances of Chris Clements. Down through the Variante Tamburello then. Things looking rather hectic at the moment. No one team seems to hold direct advantage. We've got plenty of drivers with a stake in this all. One team, though, is worth pointing out, is having a bit of early doors trouble getting some cars up into that top 15. So it appears at the moment is for Team ARL. Now, we've seen Wright's qualifying prowesses before. It seems that he is having a bit of trouble warming up the number 540. This is quite the culture shock away from what he's used to over at Lexus. So this is definitely a curious sign for what was the real governing factors behind this very sporadic move away from conformity at Lexus to a more unique drive at Lamborghini. We see they're rocketing out of the pit. Someone turned their restrictors off on that McLaren. That was one of the Race Club UK McLarens. That was Ben Godden. Really got the burners on for the pit exit. Now that is a curious one. Wasting absolutely no time. He's out of the pits like the Thunderbirds there. He is not wasting any moments here. 5 minutes left to go in quali. Ben Godden is out with a vengeance. He's 78 thousandths away from Lars Rammensperger in 14th place. Super close margins to be found throughout the running order as it stands, but still atop the timing chart so far with 5 minutes to the line is Fate Galaxy. Near to the line, the number 8 and the number 15. We see from the number 15 here, Chris Clements, a driver in the top 5, not too far off a shout of an improvement. Couldn't find one on that last lap, sadly, but he still has just shy of 5 minutes left to go. Number 101, number 55 across the line a moment ago, so Fate Galaxy starts another flying lap. Bear in mind, he has a hair's width worth of a gap up over William Cairns. So this is a super, super close pole position for the starting round of the championship. An hour and a half's worth of racing, 2 mandatory pit stops, a very packed out grid here. North of 30 cars. In fact, we were looking nearly at 40, which was a very dangerously high number for the kind of load these machines can take. And by these machines, I mean the very consoles our drivers will be playing on. Those on the Xbox Series S do find themselves at a bit of a vulnerable disposition, as we found out in a few attempts to run charity events north of 40 drivers. It was a case where the video memory actually tops out on some tracks well past that metric. That's why it's been a very specific metric for them to meet, bar one round at Spa, that they have these smaller tracks, so it's less load on the GPU. At the moment, 3 cars still yet to put times in. Steve McMillan, Benedict Varga, and Brett Butler. Still yet to put times on the charts here. The number 60, the 566, and the 450, 35th through 37th on today's grid. In terms of that top 3, William Cairns is out on track at the moment, attempting to get the leg up here on Fate Galaxy. Francois St. Ludovic not far off his trails at the moment as it stands then. Those 3 separate. And actually, when you take into the consideration that joint position for Carlos Disch, both of he and St. Ludovic currently find themselves dead level to the same time there by a single thousandth. To be precise, they find themselves what is effectively a joint third. So you take that metric into consideration. It's 4 cars divided by less than 2/10 of a second. Number 5 looks nearest to the line here, so we catch on board with Roel Hermsen. This was with Race Club UK now, an unorthodox pick to say the least with Audi. Now we saw Audi just earlier on today in the hands of Timo de Tosto, a great fight he had in the Competizione Performance League World Series round 2 at the circuit Paul Ricard. We get to see a new driver in with the same car, the Audi R8 LMS Evo 2, driven by Roel Hermsen of Race Club UK. Down to the line, 2.5 minutes left to go. Hermsen up to 6th with Audi, getting closer and closer to that half-second margin. And moreover, getting very close indeed to being within that top 5. Very powerful positions to play for in this opening race of the championship. Across the line goes Ben Godden. From 16th goes 15th. Behind him, we see the 404, Andre Martins of Team ARL, down in 23rd. Number 54 and 51 coming to the line very close to one another here. So that's Lars Rammensperger and Carlos Diesch. Diesch to the line from 4th. Across the line stays there, still joint on time there with Francois St. Ludovic. And in terms of Lars Rammensperger, he's in 11th. 2 minutes left to go. Time is ticking here in Imola. For the majority of these drivers, they're on to their final flying laps of today. Across the line a moment ago, Solomon Bosworth to the top 10. Tucks in behind Tom Hacker, but up and ahead of Chris Leisch. The two aces in the hole then for the Simplay Motorsports lineup. William Cairns and Francois St. Ludovic. What can they do inside of that top 5? They're the only presence inside of the wider top 10 for Simplay Motorsports. One of 4 teams in competition for the Shooting Stars Cup. And so far, it has been a very vibrant start to things here for this team. Now, we've seen Simplay before. We've seen some of their drivers over on the XCL Pro Series. We also saw them in the Interleague Series that was ran at Silverstone, the one-off event that was Race Club versus Simplay versus VSR. That was later won by Cas van Veltzen, representing Team VSR in a very unorthodox strategy for Nissan. Could it be 2 on the trot here into what is now the first series organised League v League v League v League Interleague? 35 seconds left to go, and Fake Galaxy continues to lead this one by a hair's width over Cairns. Cairns to the line now, needs 23 thousandths. Can he find it in that last lap? Not this time, and he has one more shot at things here. The 229, no pressure for William Cairns. That is a very, very thin margin by which to end qualifying on. One slip up, and that's his hopes for pole position scattered. 99 across the line a moment ago. Francois St. Ludovic couldn't find an advance over either his joint position with Carlos Diesch, or moreover getting closer to his teammate William Cairns. At the end of qualifying then, we see the checkered flag come out. Solomon Bosworth outside of the top 10 by 9 thousandths to right in 10th place. Lamborghini turning things around then right in the trailing end of qualifying. The 55 nearest to the line. Can it be an improvement over a 148.47 for Fake Galaxy for Team VSR? Across the line he goes with the Mercedes, and as it stands, that's the fastest time so far, and that's how it will stay. 140.847 to beat. Nearest to the line, the number 5, Roel Hermsen with Race Club UK. The Audi has definitely been a rather odd pick, but so it seems that being the odd one out isn't the worst thing in the world. Just ask Mercedes at the top of the timing charts. Audi to the line then. Roel Hermsen. Can he find his way to the top 5? Not a far margin to meet. Across the line, he did find an improvement, but is relegated from it by only 15 thousandths of a second. Nearest to the line then, the 95. We go to look on board if we can just before he hits the line there for the 95. I don't know if we'll have the opportunity. Across the line a moment ago went Ben Godden. Then across the line, the 404, Andre Martins. Then the 74 coming to the line. That'll be for Chris Leisch. We did see a leap there for Leisch up to 11th. 99 nearest to the line here for Francois St. Ludovic. It shows invalidated. Is that to be the case? Yes. And it will be Fake Galaxy for pole position. William Cairns couldn't find the time necessary to thwart Mercedes at their game here in qualifying, and neither could that of Ford. Well, an exciting end to qualifying. Sadly, with no news to discuss at the moment, as we're now in our 3rd broadcast today here on Saturday, the 14th of March. Our most recent article of news was discussing the current running of things at the 74th Safari Rally Kenya, where Takamoto Katsuta now leads for Toyota amidst the top 3's sudden shock retirement from the rally on on the 3rd leg, on day 3 of Safari Rally Kenya. Well, we're about to get a look into quite the extensive grid. For those of you still curious in the chat, all of this is in currently being ran for the Shooting Stars Children's Hospice charity. You can find the Just Giving donation there in the Twitch description. For those of you tuning in on the YouTube release, you'll find it in the video description. We're about to get underway on what is one of the largest grid reads I think we've ever had here on TRTN. An extensive roster of drivers across 4 leagues set to go head-to-head here. Who comes out on top in the opening round of the Shooting Stars Cup? We're about to find out then. The grid's set to form up here in Imola. major attacking spots to worry about then. That's going to be down at Tosa, but it's not naive to consider maybe the opportunities at the Variantes, Tamburello and Villeneuve. Now, it's for the daring and discerning few to go side by side in areas of the track like that, but it's not impossible. And these are clearly drivers who know their stuff, plenty of which we've seen in other walks of competition here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. So this is a grid with quite a lot of experience. These drivers know the ins and outs of the track. They need no introduction. But in terms of where we could expect to see them clash heads, definitely take a look down at Tosa. It's worth giving an eye there in between the Acqua Minerale and the Variante Alta. It's even possible to see them go side by side at the Variante Alta, though very rare indeed for GT3. On the run down towards Ravazza will be another heavy overtaking spot here, and of course down the opening straight on the run in towards the Variante Tamburello at turns 2 through 4 is where we're going to see a lot of overtaking happen over the course of this race. Take a look just quickly there from 7th down to 11th, just how close all of that is. 7th down to 10th by that metric. That is less than 50 thousandths of a second between those drivers in that spread. Absolutely unfathomable stuff. Well, taking a look at the session itinerary just before we get a look back in to the grid for round 1 of the championship, we're in for 90 minutes of racing with 2 mandatory pit stops for both fuel and tyres. Getting a look then with the grid, it's Fake Galaxy on pole position for Team VSR. Simplay Motorsports is William Cairns and Francois St. Ludovic second and third, with Carlos Diesch in 4th. Chris Clements for Race Club UK in 5th, and up and ahead of his teammate Roel Hermsen in the number 5 Audi in 6th place. Wish for Winnings in 7th, and then we see Richard Hall in 8th, Ben Godden in 9th, and Tom Hacker to round out the top 10. From 11th to 20th, we have Leish, Wright, Bosworth, Rammensberger, Cardno, McKay, Leach, Prince, Martins and Evans. From 21st to 30th, we have Lamming, Cummins, Sedgwick, Stoddard, Ampuero, Angeletta, McNally, Amador, Betterson and Perslow. And then from 31st to 37, we have Dominguez, Varga, Bender, Jackal, McMillan, Butler and Ogan. This is a huge, huge grid. Make no mistake of it. Enormous in its size. 37 cars in all on today's grid for round 1 of the Shooting Stars Cup. This is going to be absolutely mega for that race start. Make no mistake of it. We're looking at 19 cars on one side, 18 on the other. Actually, just doing the rough maths there. Yes, so it would be 19 cars on one side, 18 on the other. For some, that is a full grid on one side of that track, heading down towards turn 1 for the first time. That just goes to show the magnitude of the size of this grid we have for round 1. One's definitely to watch out for here. Drivers that we have quite a bit of experience studying before. Cairns, Galaxy, St. Ludovic. I believe we ran into him before under a different name. Diesch, 2-time champion in VSR. Very worth checking that out. Clements as well. And also taking a look further down the order for Godden as well. Multiple-time champion in Race Club UK Series, if I'm not mistaken. So we are in the presence of experienced drivers with their heads on straight. So this is going to make for some phenomenal racing to follow as we get into the formation lap here. We'll be catching on board with the 55 of Fake Galaxy. And as we get into the formation lap, we'll return to you in just a moment's time before the final proceedings into the first round of the Shooting Stars Cup.
30 seconds.
So then, still on board with Fake Galaxy, the man taking us away on this 37-car grid. here for the first round of the Race Club UK Shooting Stars Cup here in Imola. And just getting a look here out through the Variante Villeneuve, catching back on board the dash cam here for the 55. This gives us our first proper look at the run into Tosa. You can see it widens at the start, narrows at the centre, and then widens on the exit. So we have a bit of a bizarre state of track geometry there. It's going to make following through very difficult, but it means the drivers can line up for better exits or better entrances, meaning we'll often end up with more switchbacks and more dive bombs. On the run up towards Piratella now, but it's not impossible to see drivers side by side, and of course this is the same argument you could claim for the entirety of the track. We see for the bulk of the overtakes, it's concentrated in Sector 1's run through towards the Variante Tamburello on the exit of the opening straight, turn 7, and then down in Sector 3's Ravazza. It's also worth pointing out here, on the run down towards Acqua Minerale, getting a good run on the exit of this section here with a very short uphill straight towards the Variante Alta could give drivers that running chance to go up the inside in this section. Now, in the majority of overtakes we've seen at the Variante Alta, the most successful ones are when the driver is near enough already ahead. It means the driver defending is forced to capitulate. When two drivers go side by side, you flip a coin over whether or not they're emerging the same way around that they came into that corner. I'm sure that's a heavy consideration. Plenty of these drivers have either experienced before or are about to experience today. Of course, there's a first time for everything. Watching with the rest of the field here, we see inside of the top 10, towards the back here, we see a swarm of Race Club UK machinery. Richard Hall, Ben Godden, Tom Hacker and Chris Leish. And the colour coordination on point for today, of course, the Simplay Motorsports cars, a deep crimson red. The Team ARL cars, a bright vivid blue. A very high-vis green here for the Team VSR cars. And then for Race Club UK, the monochromatic black and white, very stark colours to be found here. Easy to identify cars in a swarm. And we're about to see one, a storm of steel then, down towards the line. The first round of the Race Club UK Shooting Stars Cup, an hour and a half of racing set to follow. And from the front lines, it's Cairns v Galaxy, Ludovic v Dish in those top two rows. Who comes out on top then? 4 leagues, 37 cars, 19 on one, 18 on the other, but only one victor here in round 1. And who dare it be? Down towards the line then, the long run towards the start-finish line here at the home of the former Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix now gives rise to a battleground of a new variety. Down to the line then, without further ado, round 1 of the championship for the Shooting Stars Cup by Race Club UK is officially underway. We're green and racing here in Imola, and an ecstatic start from the front lines there by Fate Galaxy. We see also a great start by Carlos Dish, immediately trying to get the leg up there on Francois St. Ludovic, down in towards the Variante Tamburello. For the first time, we see in the background a big swarm of cars making their way through. Up in front, you can see dust already being kicked up in the eyes on the exit of the Variante Tamburello. A huge spread of cars up in front here of Lars Rammensperger as he tries to get up and around the outside on Tom Hacker in the 101, but he takes a big lump of dust with him there, and it's contact among the teammates down through the Variante Villeneuve. I've got a little bit of something stuck in my throat there as we see in the background. A whole swarm of cars pressed into the eye of a needle down through Villeneuve for the first time, but a great start by Fate Galaxy. Leads ahead of William Cairns, behind him Carlos Dish in 3rd. Looking further down the line here, we see for Richard Betterson going toe-to-toe with Alonso Amador, and then behind him, Lewis Perslow. Got my Liams and my Lewises mixed up. That's not a first time for us here on TRTN. In the background as well, Juan Puero versus Craig Stoddard. Side by side, the two Porsches head-to-head down through to Acqua Minerale for the first time. Taking a look with Lars Rammensperger, of course, got front row tickets to the carnage that was Sector 1 in the opening lap here. As things start to simmer out through the Variante Alta, we see making his charge into the top 10, one of the sole representatives then for ARL. Furthest up the order is Wright in the number 540 Lamborghini. Looking down the line here, we see for Dominguez, this is big trouble. You see his teammate there off in the background, the 64, David Bender. A whole swarm of ARL cars stuck outside the top 30 here. Dominguez, Jackal, Butler, Bender, and I believe you see in the background there is Steve McMillan. Looking here with Roel Hermsen, this is looking to be a real spicy one to watch. The battle of the top 5. Wishful Winning's a driver we've seen before on the VSR grid, was a fiery personality on that grid, and we see him go side by side as it seems here with the number 5. Roel Hermsen leaps for it down through the Variante Tamburello, and a great leap at that, because that a millimetre out of line would have been immediate disaster between the 5 and the 23. That invites in Francois St. Ludovic, who fell quite the decent way down the order in the opening couple of laps there. He was on that second row. As it stands, he finds himself squished towards the back of the top 10. A very bizarre start indeed. You can see the podium getting away up over the brow in towards turn 9. Watching down the order here with Wright. We'll be snapping around these drivers on a routine basis. Watching here with Wright, looking up ahead of him, Lars Rammensperger and Richard Hall, 2 Race Club UK cars, now up 8th and 9th, so it appears. Making our way down through to the Aqua Minerale. Number 51 right up in front of the 540. The Lamborghini trying his luck in the early stages of this race. The opening 3 minutes have given us plenty to talk about thus far as we see a spread of machines start to fan out in towards the Variante Alta. So getting a look through that order so far, we see in the background as well, from behind, Solomon Bosworth and Tom Hacker look to be possibly going side by side on the run down towards Ravazza. Seeing here with Hacker, Bosworth looking up the inside, the 42 leaps for it, down at Ravazza. Can he commit to it though? Giving him the space, the 101 of Tom Hacker. Solomon Bosworth serves things through on the inside. Now don't leave the door open for too long, as we see they're approaching from behind, now shadowed in behind Tom Hacker. The number, looking here, number 95, Ben Godden. Looking up through that order. Bay Galaxy leads ahead of William Cairns in second, Carlos Deesh in third, with Chris Clements in fourth. And as it stands there, we see tucked in behind, that's one of the ARL Fords, if I'm not mistaken. But oh, into the wall in the background was said ARL Ford. Which one was that? Taking a look here, by the looks of it, that is Brett Butler, if I'm not mistaken. The 450 in trouble, yes. Down in 35th, not an ideal start for ARL in this race. We see, though, it's been a fantastic start thus far for Team BSR. Already putting the gap up over Sim Place William Cairns. He's been separated from his teammate, Francois St. Ludovic, who's down in 6th place in this race so far. So behind him, Deesh 3rd, Clements 4th, Winnings in 5th, St. Ludovic in 6th. Right behind them, Roll Hermsen in the Audi, the real dark horse of the grid there, that number 5. Definitely keep an eye on that one. In behind, we see Lars Rammensperger run out wide into the Aqua Minerale. That allows Richard Hall and Wright easier access into that top 10. We see up in the foreground, having been caught up by the rest of the field, that's the Team ARL Aston Martin of David Bender. We see in the background there, side-by-side action between that of, I believe, looking at there, Wishful Winnings and Francois St. Ludovic. Right behind him is Roll Hermsen on the run down towards Ravazza. 2 Fords and an Audi. Down towards Ravazza we go from the number 5's point of view. Up in front of him, St. Ludovic and Winnings butting heads here for control of 5th. Now they could invite themselves in for an advance by the Audi. Trying to get a look on board with said Audi as we scroll across this enormous scope of combat here on this field. Trying to get on with just one particular Audi. As we see here, all manner of things erupting as we go and scroll on by. On board then with Roll Hermsen, with Race Club UK. Currently in that fight for 5th. Up in front, looks like trouble. And it's for Carlos Deesh. The number 54 ran into a real spot of bother down through the Variante Tamburello. Now drops all the way down. By looks of it, almost out of the top 10 there. The 313 into the paddock as well. We had an emergency yellow flag tow there for the number 313. We see in the background there even more trouble, I believe, still for Carlos Deesh. Watching here side by side as they navigate past the lap traffic. Let's get a look at this on the replays. It's a curious case here down in Sector 1. Watching with Roll Hermsen, off in the background there was contact between one of the Race Club UK Mustangs and I believe still that being Carlos Deesh, the 54 for Team VSR. Roll Hermsen still got his hands full here for the fight of 5th place. Now actually upgraded to a fight of 4th place if we want to be pedantic about it. Up in front, the 2 Mustangs of Wishful Winnings and Francois St. Ludovic head to head down through the Variante Alta. And never mind the desync here, that only happens when we use the replay system, which is why we're going to be using it sparingly over the course of this race. We really do not want to fly too close to the sun when it comes to what the technology can and can't handle. This is the largest grid we've ever seen here on TRTN, so let's not waste the opportunity to show all of it. Looking around, then we see here with Wright currently caught between Richard Hall and Lars Rammensperger. 2 Race Club UK cars trying to sandwich him in for control of 8th place. Behind them, we see there Solomon Bosworth. Further down the line, we see here with Andy McKay, the Aston Martin up side by side with the lapped Aston Martin from Team ARL, that being David Bender. Andy McKay looking to go side by side here with Carlos Dish. That wounded 54 had a real howler in through the opening sector in the last lap just gone. Still looking to pick up on the losses of it. We see here leaping up the inside. My word, what was the ARL car thinking of doing there? David Bender on a wing and a prayer. And number 64 went flying in through Tamburello. Up in front. We still see here McKay chasing down Dish behind him. We see Thomas Cardno and Andre Martins going nearly side by side. Those two very, very lively run of things, I should say, in through that opening sector. We see here for the Jackal in the 999 Aston Martin going up and alongside Antonio Angeletta. And the number 100 up in front of them, Lewis Purslow. We see trouble there for the Jackal. Oh, what's gone on here? We'll be back to you in just a moment. Well, apologies for the technical outage there. I'm still not entirely sure what went on. Nonetheless, we're back on with the grid here. An hour and 21 minutes left to go. Very bizarre start. Very bizarre start. Let's hope we're not the only ones who had any kind of issues there. You see here back up with the top three, Galaxy, Cairns and Clements. It's worth pointing out in the time since, there has been, I believe, yes, of course, there was that trouble, of course, for Carlos Dish, who dropped way down the order to 14th place there with Team VSR, now chasing Chris Leish and Tom Hacker for 12th place. As it stands then, after the first 10 minutes, and apologies there for that disconnect, simply no idea what's gone on our side for that to have happened. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, as we see here with Dish v Leish for 13th place. That got very, very close to contact on the run through Tosa. We're seeing here with Fake Galaxy leading that charge, 2.8 seconds clear of William Cairns. Then further down the line, Chris Clements in third and Francois St. Ludovic in fourth place. Wishful Winnings in fifth. Roll Hermson in sixth with Richard Hall seventh, Wright in eighth, Rammensberger ninth and Bosworth in 10th. Then further down the line, Godden, Hacker, Leish and Dish from 11th down to 14th. McKay, Cardno, Martin, Sedgwick, Prince and McNally down to 20th. We see here very close at hand fighting. Nico Prince versus Sean McNally. Team ARL versus Team VSR down through the Aqua Minerale. In terms of close fights, I mean, take your pick here. You could really throw a dartboard. Not throw a dartboard. You can throw a dart at a dartboard with all of the drivers' names in it. I can guarantee to you they're at least close to someone. Don't throw a dartboard. That would be quite destructive, quite destructive. I'm pretty sure you get kicked out of the pub for doing that. So we see here Bosworth v Rammensberger, 9th place up for grabs and up ahead of them right in 8th. As we see going up the inside goes Solomon Bosworth in the number 42 for VSR. Goes up and ahead of Lars Rammensberger. 51 then dropping down to 10th. Wright still holds on to 8th place. In terms of that top three fight, I mean, this is scattered far and few between here. Simplay Racing now 2.3 seconds away from Team VSR. Race Club UK's Chris Clements really on a wing and a prayer. That number 15, third place at the moment, up and ahead of Francois St. Ludovic. Wishful Winnings at the back of that top five, just shy of a second away from the 99. One definitely to keep an eye on that's caught our eye throughout this race so far. Roll Hermson with Race Club UK. We see Richard Hall not too far away. Of course, the fight from earlier on. We see Wright, Bosworth and Rammensberger for 8th place. So we can only apologise enough for that very bizarre interruption. Still not entirely sure what happened there. We see Benedict Varga up and ahead of Richard Betterson down through the exit of the Variante Villeneuve. Now looking to chase down Antonio Angeletta. From behind them, Lewis Purslow, the number 32 down in 37th place. Now, I want to get a look in on board with some of the cars inside of the scope for that fight of 8th place. Let's get a look in with some in particular here. We see with 9th, Solomon Bosworth chasing down Wright. Now, this is in control directly for 8th on that field. We'll stay on board then with Team VSR's number 42. In the straightaways, this is where Ford has so much of an advantage up over Lamborghini. And this is something that Bosworth will be acutely aware of over the course of this race, as he's able to draw in such a distance over right. It's only until we get down here into the corners where the Lamborghini starts to really open back up, as we'll see it through that middle sector, which plays in wonderful contrast to this very high-speed opening sector here in Imola. There'll be a real ebb and flow found between the mid and front engine machinery on today's grid. Heading up over the brow in towards turn 9 at Piratella. Already in the pits, the number 54. Up in front here, the 540 and the 42. Still clashing for 8th as we see a bit of a run out wide there for right on the exit of the Aqua Minerale. This gives Solomon Bosworth the opportunity he's been searching for, and immediately up to 8th place on the run down towards the Variante Alta. Can he hold on to it by the time we hit Ravazza? Moreover, can he hold on to it on our next run in towards the Variante Tambirello on lap 8? That's the real question. One of several fights going on track at the moment. This one inside of the top 10. Vital point scoring positions up for grabs. 37 cars still in contention on this grid. So fortunately, so far, no DNFs. As we exit lap 7 into lap 8, we can see opening the taps over that 5.4 litre and letting it sing is Solomon Bosworth, holding on to 8th place. Into lap 8 we go. We'll catch on with them later on, taking a look around the field here. Craig Stoddard versus Dominguez. ARL versus Simplay. This is for 29th on the field. A bit of damage here for the Porsche on board, though. We want to talk about engine notes. Look no further. 8th generation Porsche 911. Flat 6 sculpted by the gods. One of the greatest engines in GT racing as we exit Ravazza. And just listen to it scream. It's one of the most iconic notes in motor racing. Ubiquitous to the world of GT, as synonymous to it as the V8 is to NASCAR or the V10 was to Formula 1. You just simply could not have a grid without that sound. I think the day that Porsche stopped making a flat 6 911 is the day we have truly failed as a species. One of the perfect designs. As we see at the moment, Stoddard 30th, clashing heads with Dominguez. Speaking of Porsches, Nico Prince versus Sean McNally. We catch back on board with them before our brief disconnect there. And we see that it is now swapped hands with the number 4 up and ahead of the number 10. Seeing here with 1C Ampuero, Team ARL's number 146, currently fighting Antonio Angeletta for 23rd on the field. Looking further around the order, we see here with Alonso Amador in 31st in the number 81. Nick Lamming versus the Jackal. Now, we've seen the Jackal before. We saw him over on the Competizione Performance League GT4 Pro-Am Cup. Now we get to see him in GT3. What a treat that is. And we see a very bizarre move. We would have thought maybe Ford, but no. Aston Martin, his weapon of choice. We see behind there the fight of Dominguez v Stoddard. Looking around the field, Robert Ogan, a driver we've seen in a few different series, limited... well, not limited to, but including BSR and the NLRL Sunday League. Sean McNally, of course, the second part of that fight with Nico Prince. As it stands there, the Nissan up and ahead. Lee Evans in the 444 down in 21st, and then looking back on with the race lead. And as we see here, in the last time we saw that gap, it was up at around 2.3 seconds. It's noticeably dropped by half a second there between Galaxy and Cairns. So there is the chance here for Simplay Motorsports in the early parts of today's race. Bear in mind, 2 mandatory pit stops on an hour and 30-minute race. Now, we can roughly sculpt out where these pit stops are going to happen. The first one easily coming up in the next 13 minutes before we get into the hour mark. The next one coming up when there's 30 minutes left in the race. It's very easy to take a race like this and divide it by 3. We have 3 30-minute stints to work with. That makes 90 minutes in total. That is your baseline setup when it comes to strategy. It's going to be any of the deviations from that we'll be paying close attention to. We see for Stoddard, this is a very early run to the pits, and we're curious as to know why that is. We see in the pits, the 169, Craig Stoddard, with Porsche, was fighting inside of the top 30. He's into the pits super early here by comparison to the majority of the field. We see Francois St. Ludovic looking to go head-to-head with Chris Clements after the nearly first 20 minutes of racing here in the first round of the Shooting Stars Cup. From behind, Wishful Winnings in 5th. And then we have Roel Hermsen in 6th. Now, in terms of close-by fights, this is one among them, but the furthest up the order of any two drivers at this time. And that's currently 2/10 of a second between Francois St. Ludovic and Chris Clements for 3rd place. We see here St. Ludovic trying to go up and around the outside, possibly for a late apex at Tosa. We see there, does tuck in for it, but does he have the climb for it up the hill compared to the BMW? Now, this is what the BMW does give back in spades, where it may lose out for straight line speed over the Ford by even the slightest of kilometre an hour or mile an hour, depending on whom you ask. It does make up for that by having more torque down low. It's a turbo engine, so this is its perfect territory, hill climbing up out of turn 7. It'll be the same story here upon the exit of the Aqua Minerale for the number 15. He's able to get onto the throttle and let the turbo do its work, giving him the pull he needs to stay away from St. Ludovic. But we see, though, the Ford has been very eager in this lap. Up and around the Variante Alta, the two skipping over the curbs on their run down towards Ravazza. An hour and 11 minutes left to go then here in Imola, and it has already been a fantastic start to the series. So, taking a look at some of the other fights going on down the order, very close three-way split here for 9th place. Wright, Godden and Rammensberger head-to-head-to-head. And actually, when we throw in Tom Hacker and Chris Leish to the mix, that makes 5's company. Further down the order, close fighting at hand here. Juancy Ampuero versus Antonio Angeletta for 22nd on the field. Then even further down the line, we have that possible fight here between Butler and McMillan down at the back of the field for the Team ARL cars. Looking back on with St. Ludovic versus Clements. Down through the run of Tambirello. In towards the run of Villeneuve. So you see here for what is a rather late signing, all things considered then, for Simplay Motorsports, Francois St. Ludovic. Number 99 goes up and around the outside. As for Chris Clements, this has been stern defence by Race Club UK. They're holding on to a podium position. This is a great place for them to be in the early leg of this championship. Of course, only 4 rounds to play with, so this is going to make up for 25% of their total points haul. So they've got to make this count every which step of the way. The next round will be in Spa. Then the round after that, Brands Hatch, then Bathurst. Out through the Aqua Minerale, we're on with Clements. Currently in that fight for 3rd place. We see Francois St. Ludovic still looking his way up the inside. Couldn't find it for the run up into the Variante Alta. Could he be sizing things up for the run down that opening straight, as Ravazza seems a little too far a cry at this time out through turn 16. Through to turn 17 and 18, he's just a little too far away to make that stick from that distance. So the 15 holds on to 3rd. We'll go to catch on board, as a matter of fact, if we can, with the onboard from the point of view of the BMW. Just before we do that, we just quickly catch here with Godden v Wright. That's part of what is an upcoming 5-car split, including Rammensberger, Hacker and Leish in the background there. You can see 4 of those Race Club UK machines chasing down the number 540 of Wright. Let's go to catch on board with the Beamer. We wanted to see what was the scope of things for that BMW for Chris Clements, and back on board then with Race Club UK's number 15. Currently in the scope then of that defensive fight for 3rd, and he's put up a royal fight here against Francois St. Ludovic with Simplay Motorsports. On the exit of the Variante Villeneuve, you can see gesturing there from the body language of that 55 Mustang. He was looking up the inside. Not the 55, sorry, the 99. 55 is up in front, and that's a Mercedes. No, the 99 Mustang was trying to look his way at the inside and has had to sort of reluctantly snap back onto that racing line. Actually, speaking of, it's worth pointing out, speaking of the 55, it's only 2.3 seconds between Galaxy and Cairns at this time. So there is absolutely a consideration here. Heading into that second stint, those two could be seeing action throughout this opening race of the championship. The 99, though, still fiercely pursuing the 15. This is a grand fight we're seeing here for 3rd place. And it's worth pointing out, every time these two slip up on an opportunity to go side by side, every time that they try to jostle for position, this is only inviting in the 2 cars behind them there that are themselves getting closer to one another. Wishful Winnings and Roel Hermsen with Team VSR and Race Club UK. In terms of that last lap, you see Galaxy is ever so slightly faster than Cairns. Up at the front of the field, we see here for Clements v St. Ludovic. We'll see how that currently specs up between the pair in that scope of third place. Meanwhile, the number 8 does bring out the yellow flags on the exit of Tosa. Trouble down the line there. In that last lap, we saw ever so slightly faster in the scope of, I believe, about 15 thousandths of a second was Chris Clements. So this is so fine, the margins we're playing against here. Now 13 laps strong into this race. Heading down towards the Varianti Villeneuve, getting a look back over the rear spoiler. You can see how enthusiastic St. Ludovic is on the run through the Variantis. He's really able to attack those curbs and get quite aggressive in that opening sector. And that's what keeps him very close to the back end of the BMW for the run uphill into the second sector. You can see where he pulls away here, constantly having the better exit. The engine doing a lot of favors here for Chris Clements. An ideal car choice for this track. We see, though, when it comes to the conversation of turbo against NA, that argument often falls apart when you look up front and see that the Mercedes of all cars is leading at the moment. Now, contrary to what we used to believe, and I imagine what plenty of you at home might believe, that's not the same 4-litre twin turbo that you find in A, the Aston Martin V8 Vantage GT3, and B, the AMG GT4. No, as a matter of fact, that's the older 6.3-litre NA unit from the SLS. I was shocked to find that out as well, but believe it or not, Mercedes is running a naturally aspirated motor on that 55. Still watching with Clements v St. Ludovic, and it's still worth pointing out that getting closer and closer and closer is that third row. Winnings and Hermsen with Ford and Audi closing in fast over these two here on the run down the opening straight, down towards the Varianti Tamburello. On to lap 14. Down through turns 2, 3, and 4. Again, look over the rear view and see that eclipsing his rear view mirror at the moment is that number 99, tucked up under the huge rear wing of the number 15, in towards the Varianti Villeneuve. Again, an area where he's been able to attack quite a lot and leveraging a better exit. The 99 looking to go up and around the outside. Could this be to a late apex? We've seen it structured this way before. Going the long way around. The 99 still holds the momentum over the 15 to stay with on the run up into sector 2, but has to tuck back in behind. Again, a victim at the mercy of that turbocharged inline 6. Down through to Aqua Minerale, we are getting so close to the possibility of contact between these pair. They have rode things so close to the line here, and Wish for Winnings is looking to get in on this action on the exit of the Aqua Minerale. Following on his trails is Roll Hermsen. We see the Audi and the Ford possibly side by side. As we see off in the background was Lewis Perslow. Let's go and catch on board here with taking a look with Wishful Winnings. Now, the reason we go on board with 23 in this fight amongst the top 10 is because not only is he part of a local fight for 5th place against Roll Hermsen, he's also about to become a third party in the conflict for 3rd place. As the more that St. Ludovic struggles behind Clements to find grounds for a position, the more it is to the benefit of he and also for Roll Hermsen, just tucked away in the background there in the Audi. Watching on board then with Winnings in the number 23, heading down through the Varianti Tamburello. He's been able to feed off of these two's fight, following on their line, learning from them. We see St. Ludovic almost looking for the inside down at the Varianti Villeneuve. That would have been a very enthusiastic run of things, but not one that I can guarantee both drivers would survive on the run down towards Tosa. Winnings is gaining significant grounds here as these two continue to squabble for 3rd. Now, not to distract ourselves from other fights on track, of course, one of the centerpiece ones we're seeing here is that battle on the podium between Clements, St. Ludovic, and later to be as well with Winnings and Hermsen. But taking a look further down the track to reveal more fights at play here, we have one for 21st between Juan Ciampuero and Benedict Varga. Simplay and ARL clashing for position. We also have Wright versus Hacker. This is for 12th place as they head up through Tosa in towards Piratella, turn 8 and turn 9. Behind them, Thomas Cardno with Simplay. Up ahead, Gordon Village. This is for 9th place, but amongst teammates, it's unlikely to see anything as ferocious as what we've seen in the scope of things out in front. We saw just running out wide on the exit of the Variante Alta, Roll Hermsen in the number 5. Into the pits goes Cairns, so just a lap before we would have reached the 30-minute mark. William Cairns is in. We'll see if Clements is liable to follow. Staying out, Clements, St. Ludovic, Winnings, Hermsen, Hall, and Bosworth. So the question is, what was he cooking there? And what was the idea for the number 229? Approaching the line then. Leish, Godden, McKay, Hacker. Hacker coming in though. So it appears. Race Club UK brings in the 101. That leaves Wright to inherit 12th place. Behind him, Cardno. Martins, Sedgwick. Do we see more drivers into the pit lane here? We see from behind them here. Going into the pits, one of the Team ARL Ferraris. I believe that's, yes, Alonso Amador in the number 81. He's into the pit lane as well. Sean McNally stays out. Evans coming to the line here. Does he come into the pit lane? Yes, he does. In the 444 from behind him, following him in, Antonio Angeletta stays out. So a sudden fake out there for the number 100. And that surprised us. I can only imagine what it was doing for Juan C. Ampuero. The 229 has a stop-go 30-second penalty. William Cairns picks up a stop-go for speeding in the pit lane. So for Simplay Motorsports, their ace in the hole for a possible race win today has just seen a first hurdle stumble in the 229. What does it mean then for these guys here? It means this is now a definitive upgrade to the fight of second place for the time being. Clements and St. Ludovic. Race Club versus Simplay. And we're back on board with the car just tucked in behind them. But as I say that, yellow flags out for the 313. Down in the Variante Tamburello, same story for the 96. Down in Sector 1, of which our drivers are short to approach here on the exit of Ravazza. In the background, going in, goes Roll Hermsen in the number 5 Audi for Race Club UK. We'll stay on board with Wishful Winnings, who's got front row tickets then to the brawl of the century between Francois St. Ludovic and Chris Clements. We see here emerging from the pit lane. That, by the looks of it, there's Tom Hacker in the 101. So nearly stepped in the way of this fight between these three. Watching there in front. We can actually get on board with Francois St. Ludovic to get an even closer point of view over this fight from the 99's angle. Heading in towards turn 7. We'll go back on board to Wishful Winnings. That's a fantastic view indeed from the 23's point of view for Team VSR. Still currently leading that race then, the number 55 of Fate Galaxy. The AMG working wonders. Well, up past the first 30 minutes of racing, things certainly looking interesting here in the opening round as we bring the displays up to our left-hand side. A whole swarm of cars in the paddock at the moment. Hermsen, Hall, Bosworth, Leish, Prince, Angeletta and Cairns. Still watching in though, St. Ludovic v Clements, I should say. 3/10 of a second between the two, and it is just some fantastic stuff to see between the pair. Looking around the track, we see Carlos Disch having took a very early first pit stop after his troubles in the first half hour of racing here. He's on the revenge path to return to that top 10 by the end of today's race, going to catch on board with Chris Clements then in the defensive angle of this fight. Going into the pits goes Francois St. Ludovic, and following him in goes Wishful Winnings. So Clements stays out. Also in the pits at this time, Fate Galaxy. So for Chris Clements, he'll move into the race lead for the time being. A lot of drivers then rigid on the structure to stay in on that 30-30 mark, where we'll be seeing the race effectively split down into thirds here. Fate Galaxy is in. Now, in terms of drivers who have already done their mandatory pit stop, we'll be looking closely towards Roll Hermsen, currently at the forefront of it, here for the first of the mandatory pit stoppers. Fate Galaxy now drops off his jacks. He's on his way out. Chris Clements leads that charge. Ben Godden stays out long and has moved into second place. Wright does the same for Lamborghini, and Thomas Cardno does the same for BMW. Leaving the paddock then goes Fate Galaxy. So it appears of the drivers currently having yet to take their first mandatory stops. That does effectively place the 55 in the lead of this race under strategy alone. 58 minutes to the line. Our next pit stop coming up in roughly, by the looks of it here, 27 minutes or so before the next wave of pit stops. But as we see the first one kick off, see Andy McKay on his way out. Wishful Winnings leaving the pit lane at the moment. Andre Martin's in. Juan C. Ampuero in. And also taking a look here is that of Alistair Cummins in the number 1, 2, 3. All three of these drivers in the pit lane. See for McKay, he's on his way out. The 292 has a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane there. And that's big, big trouble for him. He emerges out behind the swarm of Mustangs here inside of that top 10. Oh, not top 10, sorry, top 15. Actually, by the looks of it, he looks to have emerged out past a lot of the Mustangs from Team ARL. So, as we see here up in front, Steve McMillan and Brett Butler. Now, one does wonder where these drivers actually stack in on this race. They're currently 33rd and 34th. And that was a big problem, really, for the Team ARL lineup in the start of this race today, where a lot of their drivers have fallen towards the back of the field. Their ace in the whole at the moment is Wright in the number 540 Lamborghini. He's furthest up the order of the ARL lineup. As it stands right now, the Americas Racing League having a bit of an early doors wobble in this championship. The 146, the next car to receive a stop-go penalty, and that's for Juan C. Ampuero in the 146 Porsche, leaving the pit lane as we speak here. And oh my word, squeezes up in front of one of the Simplay Porsches on his way down through the Varianti Tamburello. I believe that to be, yes, that's Craig Stoddard in the number 169. So in the meantime, we also saw into the pits. Now on his way out is Chris Clements, a driver who was on for that podium position. We see leaving the pits there just in front of Francois St. Ludovic, but he's going to be intercepted very quickly here on the run down through Tamburello. Right behind St. Ludovic, it's worth pointing out as well, is Roll Hermsen with Audi. And this has been an exhilarating first third of the race here. A lot of drama then to kick things off with. I think first among the fray really to consider was this sudden downfall there for William Cairns. That stop-go 30 has done irreversible damage to his standing on the field with 55.5 minutes and still a mandatory pit stop to serve at about 25 of those minutes. Things are looking rather dire here for Simplay Motorsports as 229. Now, that's not to say we won't see him once again fight for a race with 3 more races to come after this one. There is still every opportunity here for the 229, but today this is definitely gearing up to be somewhat of a salvage drive. Godden into the pits, so too is for Thomas Cardno. We see here for Mark Sedgwick, currently being tailed by Sean McNally. Comes into the pit lane, McNally stays out. Following him in there, we see, I believe that is Juan C. Ampuero coming in. Yes, so we see into the pit lane goes the Porsche for Team ARL. In he goes. It's a whole swarm of cars in the pit lane there. Godden, Cardno, Sedgwick and McNally. That gives Galaxy easy leeway to go back up into the lead of this race. As we see at the moment, in the meantime, getting up and around that of Chris Clements is Francois St. Ludovic. So we're going to go back on board with Clements now in the attacking angle of this fight for soon-to-be third. Picking up where they left off now with the roles reversed. St. Ludovic defending and Clements attacking. Right behind them, fellow Race Club UK car there, the number 5 Audi of Roll Hermsen. Carlos Steisch getting closer to the scope of a top 5 there, 4.2 seconds away from the trio on their run through the Varianti Villeneuve. You can see him in the background there, up and ahead of Wishful Winnings in the number 23. The 2 VSR Fords hunting down this pack of cars here towards the back of the podium. As it stands then, Benedict Varga stays out to hold second place behind the 55 of Fate Galaxy. The 566 yet to have come into the pits, but Varga staying out long. We'll see how long it takes for him to come back in to the pits for St. Ludovic. This is going to be, as it stands then, a move up to second place with Clements hot on his trails for what is soon to be an upgrade to the fight of second. Not if Roll Hermsen has anything to say about it. You can see in the background there behind these two, Wishful Winnings going up and ahead of Carlos Steisch. The 2 VSR Mustangs swapping places between Aqua Minerale and the Varianti Alta. Number 10 comes into the pits at this time. Looking around the field here for nearby fights on track outside of the sort of the elephant in the room, really. That is that top 5 scrap at the moment. A lot of drivers distanced by strategy and also by pace in the very early doors of race 1 here. You see, this is looking to be a very good scrap indeed. We're on with Ben Godden, defending away from an advance by Wright in the 540 Team ARL Lamborghini. This is presently then that fight for 11th. We'll stay on board with the 95 on the run down through Tamburello. Lamborghini on his trails. In towards Villeneuve. We see here where change of direction is concerned, Lamborghini struggling a little bit to keep pace with McLaren, but it's going to be in that middle sector where they start to close things back down on the number 95. Out through Tosa we go. 5.2 litre versus 4 litre. V10 versus V8. Down through to the Aqua Minerale, you can see just how close the 540 is able to hold close there on the McLaren. And exiting Aqua Minerale may very well have his chances to strike. But again, much as the same case as we saw for BMW versus Ford for the longest time, it's the same story for Lamborghini versus McLaren. That turbocharger is helping so much to keep him ahead when it comes to the uphill sections out through the Aqua Minerale and then earlier on the run out through Tosa at turn 7. A little bit of stuttering there from the 95, a bit of a confusing one. In terms of straightaway speed, McLaren has Lamborghini by a few miles an hour here, so for Wright, he is going to have to commit religiously to the slipstream of the 95 to stay with on the run down the opening straight. We'll catch on with these two a little later on, but going back into the scope of things in our top 5, we see, as it stands right now, Benedict Varga still yet to come in, so he's still second in this race at the moment. Up in front, you can see from the point of view here of Roel Hermsen, that's Francois Saint-Ludovic in the Simplay Motorsports 99. And Chris Clements in the number 15, who's been pursuing him for the longest time here. In the second stint of 3 today, we see that the 99, now in the clean air, has been able to open the taps up over the 15 by quite some way. 1.3 seconds between the pair. It actually looks closer to be the case here that Clements and Hermsen could find their way into a battle in the next 20 or so minutes before the next wave of pit stops. We see here for Wright, now the attacking angle of this previous fight for 11th, getting up and around his teammate there, that being Dominguez in the number 8, who brought the yellow flags earlier out today. Out through Aqua Minerale. Andre Martin's up in front. Up and around the Variante Alta. So getting close to the halfway mark of this race, let's get a look at the field one more time as we see Benedict Varga comes in. So this is going to create that huge change that these drivers have been waiting for as we see Varga fall down the line here in the 566. Now onto a first of 2 mandatory pit stops. So as it stands here, getting towards the halfway mark of race 1 of Race Club UK's Shooting Stars Cup here in Imola. It's Fake Galaxy to lead that charge ahead of Francois Saint-Ludovic in second. Chris Clements in third with Roel Hermsen in fourth. Wishful Winnings rounds out the top 5 for Team VSR. Right behind him is Carlos Steisch in 6th place. We see Richard Hall 7th. Fighting off an advance by Solomon Bosworth in 8th place. Benedict Varga in the pit lane, soon to drop out of that top 10 as we see Chris Leish up to 9th. Ben Godden into 10th. As we see Wright in 11th. Cardno in 12th. Hacker 13th. Rammensperger 14th. Cedric 15th. And this really depends on how long Varga stays in that pit lane. We see for Cairns, he's about to move back up to 16th place. Had that stop go 30 earlier on in this race, and that's what set him all the way down the tracks here from what was second on the field down towards 17th, now 16th as he crosses the line. McNorley set to move up possibly to 17th. You can see there leaving the pit lane is Benedict Varga. Leaves the pit lane there by looks of things in 18th place. That could be 20th with Angeletta and McKay right behind now ahead. So 18th for Antonio Angeletta, 19th for Andy McKay, and 20th there for Benedict Varga. Alistair Cummins now tucks into 22nd behind Lee Evans, who moves up to 21st. Craig Stoddard, 23rd. Up and ahead of Nick Lamming in 24th. The Jackal, 25th. Robert Hogan, 26th. Richard Betterson, 27th. Andre Martins, 28th. Dominguez, 29th. And Puero, 30th. Butler, 31st. McMillan, 32nd. Bender, 33rd. Amador, 34th. Prince, 35th. Leach, 36th. And Purslow in 37th. Looking back into the state of the affairs in our top 5, we see that Francois St. Ludovic, since being given the clean open air, has now put well over 1.2 seconds over Chris Clements in 3rd place. Roel Hermsen tucks into a comfortable 4th, putting 2 vital scoring positions in that top 5 in the courts of Race Club UK. Of course, on top of the individual statistic for that Drivers' Championship here in the Shooting Stars Cup, one of the greater emphasis has been the League v League aspect. So for Team VSR, they do find quite a few pivotal scoring positions over in their court, such as for drivers like Fake Galaxy, as well as Wishful Winnings, Carlos Deesh and Solomon Bosworth, and the triad of Fords from 5th down to 7th, with the Mercedes leading the charge in today's race. It's also worth pointing out Race Club UK have got quite a lot of eggs in this proverbial basket. Taking a look in that top 10, 3rd, 4th, 8th, 9th and 10th as it stands there. Why do we count the top 10? Well, those are, of course, the 10 highest point scoring positions. That is where every team has been scrambling to be with such feverish intent over the course of this first race. And getting in towards the halfway mark, things do not show any signs of slowing down. Taking a look here in one such fight, Angeletta v McKay, Aston Martin and Ford head-to-head here. Running into the gravel, though, Andy McKay in trouble, and that allows Antonio Angeletta much easier access to go up and around the outside. A drive-through penalty given over there to Alonso Amador in the number 81, of which he now has to serve. So things have been a very troubled start for Team ARL in the first round of the championship, but there's always opportunities for onwards and upwards here. Great chance for improvement heading into that second round at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps 2 weeks from now on the 28th of March. Checking back in on the aftermath then of the McKay and Angeletta fight for 18th. You see now getting closer to that second margin between the pair that kills off the ambitions for a fight early on. And such as what we saw early on in this race here, getting into the halfway mark now for Clements v St. Ludovic. But as we see, 1.1 seconds, it was 1.3, so never say never on the opportunity those two could once again fight on this grid. See here with Roel Hermsen.
We are at the halfway mark, still a way to go.
Up the road we see there David Bender moving over for the arrival of Francois St. Ludovic down through the Variante Alta. Gordon v Wright, number 81, just taking their drive through. That's been cleared by race control. Now up through the Aqua Minerale we see here for Godden. 0.6 of a second over Wright. Now, it's been a very curious fight between these two. Of course, mid-engine machinery head-to-head. But what has been, I'd say, one of the major defining points of their fight has been the strengths and weaknesses of both engines. That McLaren 4-litre twin-turbo has got a lot more shove uphill, same as what we saw for the fight for BMW v Ford earlier on in this race. And that's what's given him the upper hand here over the Lamborghini. We do know as well for that 5.2 currently for Wright. And that's also a burden shared by Roel Hermsen's Audi. They share the same 5.2-litre engine. It's just a rather anemic unit for straight line speed. It's not the greatest on the block for it. We do see yellow flags are out for the number 5. So looking to go and catch on board with the scope of things for the number 5 as it stands at the moment. Scrolling quite quickly through, so our apologies there, but we see it's for Roel Hermsen. So the Audi in question ran into trouble down at the Variante Villeneuve, now exits through Tosa, down in 8th place, dropping in behind Richard Hall, but still ahead of teammates Chris Leitch and Ben Godden. Joins a race club entourage of vehicles from 7th down to 10th on this grid at the moment. Back into green flag conditions, 43 minutes left to go here in Imola. Still a long road to that checkered flag, but as I say that, the yellow flags come back out once again. Taking a look here, by looks of it, it looks to be, is it for the 146? I believe, yes it was, but he rejoins the track. Juancy Ampuero. And it's, no, it's almost, yes, it's green flags. There we go. I was about to say, it's probably the quickest I think we've ever put the yellow flags back on there, as he rejoins with a bunch of the Team ARL cars. I must say, fantastic livery for them. I do like a good blue. I think that was one of the parts that really tickled me about the production for this championship when we were approached by the folks at Race Club UK, was taking a look at the colour coordination. It is really quite visually satisfying to see those stark colours, these very bold colours here, easy to distinguish drivers by their teams at a fair distance here. We're looking at a VSR car and a Race Club UK car. Antonio Angeletta and Andy McKay going to fight here for 18th place. Looking up the order, you can see Team ARL's ace in the hole here, the 540, still scrapping to within a chance of that top 10. Wright versus Godden. So let's go and catch on board once again with the Lamborghini here. On with Wright for the Americas Racing League. You see their big step out for Godden, but similarly following in his wake there was Wright having to get onto the brakes, and that caused the back end to swing in response to trying not to crash into the 95. So those two make the same mistake in that area, but one brought on by the other on the exit of Alta on the way down to Ravazza. Still 0.6 of a second, so still plenty for these drivers to fight for over the course of the race today. We do see some drivers into the pit lane at the moment, and at the moment these are way down in the order. We see here for Robert Ogan, Team VSR's number 96 Ferrari into the pit lane, rolling down towards his pit box at this time. We see here very close squabbling for position. Hermsen and Leish, 74 versus the number 5. Caught up in the mix there, one of the Team ARL Aston Martins. Leish is forced to run over the Variante Tambirello. Not particularly pleased with it, but there's a lot of traffic to be considered in this area of the track. I believe that's, yes, the 64 David Bender with them from 33rd. We do see here some close fighting, or at least used to be close fighting here for Nick Lamming. Now, by looks of it there, right behind him, the BMW. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that's not the 229, but it is one of the Race Club UK cars. Not Race Club, sorry, Simplay cars. It's not Varga. That's Team ARL, so I believe, yes, it's Gary Leach with the 313. A few yellow flags have been out today already for that 313. Leach has not had the greatest running of things at the moment, but still plenty of road left to travel before the end of race 1 today. In terms of the closest fight of the top 10 at the moment, you're looking at it. Wright versus Godden, right at the very back of the top 10 as the rest of the top 10 start to filter in on a matter of seconds as opposed to tenths. A far cry of what things were like in the opening half of this race, but such is the curse of endurance racing. It always filters out here at the halfway. Andy McKay into the pit lane then with Race Club. We saw him fight earlier on with Antonio Angeletta. Bear in mind, the greater bulk of the second pit stop wave is set to arrive in about 8 minutes and 38 seconds. So that's where we're roughly expecting the bulk of the grid. Since that's the most appropriate strategy on paper for a 90-minute race with 2 mandatory pit stops, is to split it into stints of 30 minutes apiece and go once at the hour and once at the hour mark and then the other at the 30-minute mark. And we already saw, as per our predictions, that's what the majority of the grid was doing at the hour mark. And we'll see whether or not that's going to come to be the case in the next 8 minutes. Right, and Godden encountering, believe again, that is David Bender. Another close fight, Cairns and Rammensperger. This is for 14th for the moment. Lars Rammensperger chasing William Cairns. Presently then, that's the fight for 14th. Heading up round to Piratella. Yellow flags out for, I believe that is the number 100. So that, if I'm not mistaken, yes, is Antonio Angeletta. We also see being collected there the 444. That's Lee Evans with Team VSR. He's in the wall at the moment. What on earth has gone on here for Evans? He's back into the pit lane. The 444 could be out of this race as he's been towed to the pit lane. Also coming in for VSR at the moment, we see in for his second pit stop, trying to undercut things by around 7 minutes. Actually missing his pit box there is Carlos Dish. Bit of a troubled sight for VSR at the moment, having some trouble in the pits. As for Wright v Godden, catching back on board with this saga here. Now as it advances up to 9th place in terms of the fight, but under strategy still towards the back of that top 10. We'll see what they can change of that later down the line. Also advancing into a potential fight again is Leish v Hermsen. Two of the Race Club UK cars fighting for 7th. Dish cleared for the run then to the line. 36 minutes before the end of today's race. And in the next 6 minutes, we are about to see the pit lane become a hell of a lot more busy. Let's see if we can... Oh, hang on a moment. We do have yellow flags out for the 81 down at Ravazza. Let's see if we can go and catch on there with the 81. That's Alonso Amador for Team ARL, stuck down at turn 18. And trying to get a look in here with him. He's stuck there at turn 18. Can't find any room to rejoin the track. A very confusing sight then. He's having to wait things out for a gap in the traffic. I think he's got one just coming up here, but he's in reverse. So I think he's just going to try and rejoin parallel to the circuit. Not entirely sure what the plot is here for the 81, but as we see, he is rolling, so he's not beached. Yes, I think it's just going to be a running start. He rejoins parallel to the exit of Ravazza. Back out on track goes Amador. And back into green flag conditions for the time being. Looking back in then, with some of the fighting going on around the circuit, Wright and Godden still one to consider, and then in the same stroke, Leish and Hermsen. Further down the line, very close fighting to be had here, possibly so, between the Jackal, Craig Stoddard and Nick Lamming. Simplay, Team ARL and Race Club UK contending for 21st. You can see in the case of Stoddard, considerable damages for the 169, especially over its rear. Take a look at that there. Someone has been pelting the back end of that 169 into the corners. Looking here with Carlos Dish rejoining the field behind Benedict Varga. The 54 will be on the warpath here. But as we cut around to see some of the other fights further upfield, Leish v Hermsen is definitely one on the cards. I would not call this one off here as we see even further struggles for Hermsen in the trailing end of the second stint. Not long then before his arrival to the pits for the second and last time today. With his teammate on his trails, Chris Leish possibly gearing up for an inside lunge, stays clear of it on the run through Ravazza. We see there, rightfully so, and as predicted, in goes Roel Hermsen in the number 5. Nonetheless, has been a great hustle for him so far in the Audi. A very unorthodox pick, but one that he has been able to make stick in that top 10. In terms of Godden v Wright, we see it boil over to 1.3 seconds worth of distance now, as the two become ever further apart. Watching here, Dish v Varga v McNally. This is for 16th on the field. Staying on board with Simplay, with the number 566 of Benedict Varga. Caught in the middle of it all for 16th place. McNally up in front. Dish and Angeletta out back. Swamped amongst the VSR machines. rolling around Ravazza. We'll see if anyone makes the move into the pit lane. No one dare try it at this time. So you see here getting super close is Carlos Dish. Just quickly tabbing away then from Benedict Varga on with Dish. Going in towards the Variante Tambirello. He's up on the inside over the 566. Gets the leg up there in towards the run of 17th place. And with Hermsen just leaving the pits, that's actually 16th. He's just acquired in the number 54. Actually, 15th. How about that then? Now into the pits, we see two more drivers. The Jackal in the 999, and then also coming in is Richard Hall in the 111. No word yet over the leading car. Fake Galaxy continues to open the taps over Francois St. Ludovic's Simplay Motorsports 99. Gap between the pair as it stands there considerable by nearly a quarter of the track. We see cutting away over to St. Ludovic. Now joined by Hermsen on the exit of his pit lane run. He's 20th with St. Ludovic in second. The Mustang on your screens here. Hanging around in the background there, Chris Clements. Looking for a podium here for the Race Club UK team. And a very solid way for them to start their efforts here in this Interleague Series. In terms of that fight for Gordon and Wright, I'd say at this leg here, they're going to have to wait until that third stint for anything to become lively again, because I just don't see it to be the case in the next minute of racing that something gears up for them. We see for Richard Hall on his way out of the pits, as you see joined there on the exit by the 999 of the Jackal for Team ARL with Aston Martin. Whole swarm of cars on the exit there, among them Sean McNally. Going up and around there, the 999. So 30 minutes left to go. This is where we come to expect the bulk of these pit stops on this lap coming. We see here for Francois St. Ludovic, joined by Roel Hermsen. Behind him, Chris Clements. And also just up in front of Clements, I believe they're taking a look. As we do have yellow flags out for the 32. It was towed to the pit lane. So that's... Oh, it was for Perslow. That's two Team VSR cars in serious turmoil. Into the pits, joining them there is, I believe, having a look at it, the number 42. So I believe that to be Solomon Bosworth, if I'm not mistaken, into the pit lanes at this time. Yes, it is Bosworth in, also in the pits as well. Just having entered is Thomas Cardno in the number 7. So we're seeing the sort of first droplets that forms that storm into the pit lane. We also see for William Cairns, now of course still on the advent of his final pit stop, he's actually back up into that top 10. Still holding on to that fastest lap we see here for Galaxy. Not coming into the pits, but we do see more drivers in. Among them Mark Sedgwick. Joining him in the pit lane as well from behind is Juan C. Ampuero. In the 146 Team ARL Porsche. Cardno still in the pit lane, but he's about to drop off his jacks and leave in a moment's time. We see heading into the pit lane there, Francois St. Ludovic. Joining him in there. Looks to be, I'm pretty sure that is the 404. Yes, the very bizarre... Actually, no, it isn't, but we do see for the 404. Big slide out there for Andre Martins. We caught him right in the nick of time. Down through to the Aqua Minerale, and he spun the car back in the opposite direction. We see very quickly gets himself out of sight. I mean, come on, get the car straight and going. Just put the TC on. And there we go, up through to the run of the Variante Alta. Also in the pit lane, then we see here is Chris Leish. Now, the car we were trying to catch on board with that was joining our drivers in the pits there was way further down in the order. That is for Steve McMillan in the number 60 Team ARL Ford. So St. Ludovic is in. Galaxy stays out for the time being. We could see him into the pits on this lap. Clements also staying out. Winnings staying out also. Same story for Godden and Wright and Hacker. Cairns stays out as well. Into the pits goes Lars Rammensperger. Still plenty of drivers anticipated to the pit lane entry. We see here for Fate Galaxy in the 55. Is he coming in? Yes, is the case there. Goes for the 55. The race leader is in. 27.5 minutes then left to go here in round one of the Shooting Stars Cup by Race Club UK. And it's Fate Galaxy, the race leader so far. It's been very confident for VSR and for Mercedes AMG in control of the field here in Imola. Now we'll see what this final pit stop provides. Waiting to see then, will we see the car currently up in second place, fighting for a position on the podium at the end of today's race. Race Club UK's Chris Clements stays out. Wishful Winnings takes the initiative as well to stay out. Is going to try one more lap over his teammate, Fate Galaxy. We'll come to see if that's going to be the case. Reciprocated for Ben Godden. At the moment, still hunting a position in that top 5. Very likely chance he could find at least a top 10 finishing position. Has been clashing heads here with Wright for the longest time. Galaxy still in. And as of currently, no one yet to join him. As I say that, I see in the foreground, I believe, one of the Simplay Motorsports cars. We see Craig Stoddard in. And the 540 joining us in the pits as well. So I believe that is... oh, that's Wright. So Wright's coming in. Wright has come into the pit lane. Galaxy's on his way out. Hacker stays out. Cairns. Will we see him come into the pit lane? I mean, he's had one hell of a returning drive here. He stays out. As for Francois Saint-Ludovic, he's still lost a considerable wad of time here with Galaxy just about in the scope of it there, just a little under half the track's distance away. Fate Galaxy has carved this lead out so clean you would have assumed it was carved from marble. Bear in mind though, still a few drivers in front of him, still yet to come into the pits. We see up in front of him here one of the Race Club UK Mustangs as it stands there for Fate Galaxy. Right up in front of him is Tom Hacker. We see there Wright just leaving the pit lane. Let's go to catch on board though with these drivers up in the top 5. Things could get exciting here as we see Benedict Varga in from 13th. We see for Clements, is he coming into the pit lane? Not this time around. We see in the background there, diving to the pits goes that of Alastair Cummins and Wishful Winnings, both into the pit lane. The 540 with a stop go 30-second penalty to serve then. And that is for Wright. So disaster for Team ARL. Their ace in the hole for the top 10 has just been given a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That is the worst sign they could have had here in this race. Seeing with Tom Hacker versus Fate Galaxy. This is out through the Variante Alta. Let's stay on board then with the Race Club UK number 101. Presently then, as we see for the fight of 4th place, strategically, that is still in the hands of Galaxy, but he wants to take the position on track, and that he does, leaping up the inside in the 55 over Hacker, forcing him down to 5th at Ravazza. We see here for Tom Hacker, he can stay with that AMG. He has got straight line speed advantage over the Mercedes, with Galaxy now having upgraded to 3rd because of the recent runs into the pit lane from drivers further up ahead. Hacker can stay with until he finds himself to the pits. Winnings on his way out, Cairns on his way in. Up in front there, we see one of the Simplay Motorsport Mustangs making their way out in front. That's the 1, 2, 3 of Alastair Cummins. You see here for Sean McNally staying out. For the longest time was fighting with Richard Hall. May have to find himself fighting with his lapping teammates there. And that's Robert Ogan, if I'm not mistaken, in that 96. We see the 540 still has to serve their stop go. They've yet to come in to do so. Meanwhile, into the pits goes Chris Clements. Ben Godden nearest to the line. For a lot of these drivers, they are racing their sort of lapped comrades here that have been keeping them the closest of company on this grid. We see up in front of the 95 was Lars Rammensberger in the 51. Into the pits then goes Ben Godden. So 2 of the Race Club cars in. Bay Galaxy just around the corner though, so he will be resuming his lead of this race with 23 minutes left to go here in Imola. Race Club putting up a phenomenal effort to challenge VSR on this one, but it seems all but inevitable that the 55 will once again lead. As for Tom Hacker, he put on a great fight there, but he's into the pits in the 101. Likely then to see a top 10 finish on the way he's been performing so far. We'll see how long that remains the case. Now, a fleeting minority of drivers still yet to have taken those pit stops. Among them here, Sean McNally. Then looking further down the order, Nick Lamming, Brett Butler, and Nico Prince. We see Lee Evans. He's effectively a soft DNF. Same story for Lewis Perslow. You see there, Godden on his way out. Hacker still in the pit lane. Try as they may, this looks to be almost a sweep here for VSR. Especially in regards to those top fives. I mean, we see here Galaxy, Winnings, and Deesh all in that top five. Oh my goodness, off in the background. Oh my word, a huge clash there for the 1-2-3 and the 3-1-3. So that comprised an incident there for Alistair Cummins. Let's see if we can get a look at that on the replays, or is that just a little too late? We see there on the exit of Tamburello, tries to rejoin, slams the 3-1-3. I don't think he had much of a choice in how the car chose to behave when he swung into the left. I think he was trying to steer onto the track, but that obviously rear-wheel drive has not got a lot of persuasion over the back end in terms of if it wants to suddenly turn around and become the front end of the car. That's unfortunate, though, for Cummins. The 1-2-3, big hit with his teammate there. We see a newfound fight, Wishful Winnings versus Chris Clements. Now, this could definitely be one to watch. Winnings was in the close contention, watching him with that fight for the longest time of Clements v. St. Ludovic, but now himself becomes part of that competition for the top three. The 1-2-3 is brought back into the pits, and I believe that could be the end of the road for Alistair Cummins. Let's go and catch on board with the Ford here in that fight on the podium. This is one we really do want to see here in the trailing end of this opening race. Clements versus Winnings. We see here from the angle of the BMW, defending away from the number 23. On board then with Wishful Winnings, the pursuing angle of this fight for third. So you see they're ducking out all the way to the right for a swing in through at the Varianti Tamburello. What a move by Wishful Winnings. Played his opponent like a fiddle. Watch this on the run down through turns 2, 3, and 4. Look at this. Hooks it all the way to the outside. Knows the 15 has overcooked his brakes and is going to run shallow through turn 1 and just... not turn 1, sorry, turn 2, and just slams his way through. What a move there by Winnings. Read him like yesterday's weather. That was something. All respect, though, to Chris Clements. Not really a great deal he could do with the Mustang parked in his diffuser. At the moment, then, he really isn't out of the woods, because you can see behind him is the number 54. Let's see if we can go and catch on board here with that 54. This is with Carlos Deesh, if we can here. I believe we've just cut past the Fords, looking backwards, I suppose, then. Stick it in reverse to try and find our next Ford here. Carlos Deesh with VSR pursuing for what is now currently the scope of 4th place. 19.5 minutes left to go then here in Imola. And this has been a very exciting start to a new chapter here with the folks at Race Club UK. So as we drop in on the last 20 minutes of racing then here in Imola, let's take a look at some of the close-by battles where you're seeing one of them first among the fray, highest in the order. 4th place between Clements and Deesh after Clements drops out of the podium there because of that blindsider move through Tamburello by Wishful Winnings in the number 23. Further down the line, we're seeing Hermson v. Godden. This is for 10th on the field. Then further down the line from them, Varga v. Sedgwick. And that's currently for the scope of 16th place. Even further down the line here, Betterson v. Jackal. That's currently for 25th. Getting a full scope of the field, though, before the end of this race today. Looking back in for the fight of Clements v. Deesh as they hit traffic. Bait Galaxy leads ahead of Francois St. Ludovic with Wishful Winnings in 3rd, Chris Clements in 4th, Carlos Deesh in 5th, and Solomon Bosworth in 6th place. Richard Hall in 7th, and Chris Leish in 8th place ahead of Ben Godden, 9th, and Roel Hermson in 10th place. Thomas Cardno in 11th place. William Cairns in 12th. Tom Hacker 13th. Lars Rammensperger 14th. And as McNally comes into the pits for 15th place, that could soon go over to Mark Sedgwick. At the moment, he's on his way down towards Ravazza. So back on board here for the fight of Dish v Clements for 4th place on the field, heading in towards the Variante Alta. We see as the number 4's cleared, McNally stays in 15th, Sedgwick 16th, Varga 17th, McKay 18th, Wright 19th, and Martins in 20th. Angeletta 21st, Stothard or Stottard, depends on who you ask there, 22nd, Ogan 23rd, and then Lamming in 24th. Jackal 25th, Betterson 26th, Dominguez 27th, and Puero 28th, Bender 29th, and Butler in 30th. McMillan in 31st, Amador in 32nd, Prince 33rd, Leach 34th, Cummins 35th, and Purslow a soft DNF there from 36th. And we also saw the same story for the 444 of Lee Evans. 17 minutes to the checkered flag then here in the first race, and so far it has been fantastic stuff. We see there moving out past to allow his teammate easier grounds to fight. That was Sean McNally on our left-hand side, watching still with Carlos Dish in that fight of 4th place, heading in towards Tosa, looking to go up and around the outside then. Carlos Dish, 2-time VSR champion, clashes heads here with Chris Clements. We see he has really been taken for a ride. He hits the grass there on the run towards Piratella, saves the car, but has to run out wide at turn 9. Heading to the wall, a big hit there for Carlos Dish. It's disaster for the 54. From beyond a certain point there, the man became a passenger in his own machine. Out through here, you see the snap backwards here into the wall. Slams the wall there for the number 54. A huge, huge hit for Carlos Dish. We see the aftermath of it. He drops down to 6th behind Solomon Bosworth. And with Richard Hall and Chris Leish in pursuits from 7th and 8th, the possibility for Dish to hold ground here is starting to slim up. Taking a look with that impact, it's not done any knock-on effect to his steering system. The car's still able to steer straight. And he's very lucky, given the angle of the impact there, that he's not come away with more damages than he has right now. But that's not to say he has none. Take a look at that front end. Mangled as he brings it back into the pit lane. He can't go on like this. Into the pits goes the 54. Sudden drama then for Team VSR. Looking up here with Simplay Motorsports is Francois St. in 2nd place. Currently caught amongst traffic with Varga in front of him in the 566. His teammate not looking to put any pressure on the 99. Up in front of him, Alonso Amador, 32nd in the number 81 Team ARL Ferrari. As for wishful winnings, he holds on to a confident P3 here. Nothing to scoff at whatsoever. He has had a very solid performance so far. A long-time fan of TRTM. We see him on quite a few of our live streams in the Twitch chat, so it's wonderful to see him out on track once again after what has been quite the hiatus to performances on our screens here. Last time we saw him commit to a full GT3 drive was back in, I believe, season 8 of VSR Phoenix in their GT series. So having a look as to what that recent run into the pits for Carlos Dish has done for that top 10, it has given much easier access to things here for Race Club UK. They now hold higher standing in terms of points distribution, 6th through to 9th there. That's 4 cars they've got already in a row inside of that top 10. Then further up ahead of them, they've got Clements in the top 5. So Race Club UK looks to be coming away from that first round of the championship with quite a healthy dosage of points to their name to go up and against the likes of VSR, currently leading this race, courtesy of the 55 of Fate Galaxy. Wishful winnings on the podium as well in the number 23. In terms of Simplay Motorsports, we see that their cars are spread a little bit further towards the run between the top 10 and top 20 positions of this race, but the furthest among the fray is here in 2nd place, Francois St. Ludovic in the number 99. Now, it would have been more had we seen not a penalty applied there to the 229 of William Cairns, a driver who was challenging throughout this race, nonetheless still finds himself in that scope of the top 15. Currently with the fastest lap in 11th place. Thomas Cardno, his teammate ahead of him in the number 7 BMW in 10th place. In terms of Team ARL, their one chance inside of that top 10 was right, but after that drive-through penalty dished out to the 540. Actually, no, it's a stop-go 30, wasn't a drive-through. So after that penalty dished out to the 540, their chances to see a driver in the top 10 were scattered. The number 81 picks up a stop, not a stop-go, sorry, a drive-through. That's for Alonso Amador. We see here close fighting, Robert Hogan versus Craig Stoddard. You see here on the exit of the Aqua Minerale, flat 6 versus V6. The Ferrari with a less than ideal run through the Aqua Minerale could give opportunities over to Stoddard here in the third sector, so out through the Variante Alta. If he can stay close enough, he could have a chance to leap up the inside down at Ravazza, but I think looking at it here, the gap may just be a little too large. We'll see, though, on the run down through towards Ravazza. 169 very late onto the brakes is just going to close the distance on Hogan. You see here for Andy McKay. Number 292 for Race Club UK. Currently 8/10 away from Benedict Varga. You can just see him up in front there on the exit of turn 10 out through Piratella. Behind him we see his right in the number 540, so closing in on what could very well be a fight defensively for 16th place for McKay. He's still got his plate full in the last 11 minutes of racing to follow. In terms of closest fights, we are seeing one here. Stoddard and Hogan once again. So we saw the opening end of that fight here back on with Craig Stoddard and Robert Hogan. As a matter of fact, let's see if we can go to catch on board with these drivers in this part of the race. So cutting out past the Fords here to locate the Porsches. We see here for Craig Stoddard. See the pursuits of things down through that middle sector for the Porsche at this time. Looking further around the field then for any nearby fights on track. Of course, we saw between the pair just a moment ago, Robert Hogan and Craig Stoddard. We see here from Hogan's point of view on the run towards Ravazza with VSR in the number 96. One possibly to consider, Andre Martins of Team ARL versus Sean McNally. We see here with McNally on the run out through the Variante Tamburello. 1.2 seconds from Martins in the 404 in front of him. You can see there just up in front the black and gold. Very unique colour scheme, of course, with the majority of the team running the black and blue. It's a curious case here to what difference was been allowed over to Martins. Obviously a special livery with those gold accents in there on the 404. You see here very close fighting. This is for Richard Bettison and the Jackal. We see 566 has now been given a drive-through penalty, and that's gone over to Benedict Varga. So that's going to be great news for Andy McKay. Free position then, moves up to the top 15. Let's stay on board with some of the nearby fights we still see here. Having exchanged hands for position was Carno and Cairns. We see from behind them the Aston Martin, I believe there. That is the Jackal and Richard Bettison. At the moment then, these two clashing heads for 24th on the field. Just under 9 minutes left to go. Taking a look up the order as well, there is obviously also the considerations for that 19th place fight, McNally v Martins. Looking back in with Bettison v Jackal. There's also one currently in progress between Nico Prince and Gary Leach. That's down in 31st on this grid. We see with these two here, the 75 and the 999, that distance starts to build back up in favour of the Aston Martin. So catching back on board here, Stofford v Ogan, another fight that's still been going on all the meanwhile. We see as well also McNally versus that of Andre Martins. Quite a lot of fighting there from the scope of the 20th to 30th positions in this sort of lower third of the grid is where we've seen a lot of drivers get their elbows out in the trailing end of this round of the championship, the opening round of the Shooting Stars Cup by Race Club UK. We see here for Craig Stoddard possibly to be within a chance here to fight with Robert Ogan. We saw differing lines in that opening sector. Also worth a note there up in front as things look to a possible side-by-side move here between Sean McNally. He's to the rear quarter of Andre Martins, hoping that he runs himself out of ground. That did not end up being the case. See on the exit though, side-by-side action there, I believe. As it stands there, yes, that was the move for Gary Leach to come up the inside in the 313 against Nico Prince for 31st. And up the inside he goes, but to the chagrin there of Sean McNally, we see him run out wide down at Rabatza and lose considerable ground over Andre Martins. Both of these two, as it stands, though, look to be taking on extra positions, courtesy of that drive-through for Benedict Varga in the 566. So silver lining to the dark cloud here for these two. Looking back in with some of the other fighting, we see things have definitely boiled over now in the scope of it between Betterson and Jackal. We catch here with Betterson clearly with front-end damage and a far distance stranded away from the 999 Aston. Front-end damage there for the number 75, so I think we can roughly paint a picture in our minds as to what's happened there. That's a bit away for things to go in the closing 10 minutes. We see here Ogan v Stothard, or Stottard. Again, still trying to work the intricacies of everyone's new names out here. See big slide out wide there for Ogan. We see there rocketing up through was, I believe that is there, the 229. So that was William Cairns really going for it now. He holds that fastest lap. He's in the top 10 and he is on a real mission here. Rocketing out past his teammate. Craig Stottard gives over for the move there for William Cairns out through Tosa. Meanwhile, new possible fight. Tom Hacker versus Lars Rammensperger. 5.5 minutes to go here in Imola. See though, a bit of trouble for Rammensperger out through the Aqua Minerale, the 51. A bit of a bump there. Up through the run of turns 11, 12 and 13. Looking here, now this is a curious case. Wishful Winnings is being intercepted, as you can see in front of him there. That, if my memory is not mistaken me, that is Chris Clements. So as we see, Clements is catching up towards Winnings. He's been held up behind the 540 of right of Team ARL with Lamborghini. Let's go to catch on board with these two, as I think we're about to see a rather climactic last couple of lap dash here between the pair. Let's go and catch on board with Clements. On with the number 15. As now this does pick up into the proceedings. But, oh, it's contact! It's contact between Wright and Clements out through the Aqua Minerale. It is disaster. Oh my goodness. As if it could not turn any worse. We see here, running out wide is Wright, attempting to rejoin. Slams there, the number 15 into the wall. Goes Chris Clements. Oh my goodness gracious me. It has been shocking here in this race. The amount of incidents that have kicked off right at the worst possible moment. We see for that effort, the 15 with considerable front-end damage. Richard Hall could move up into that top 5. We see him right behind in the 111. On board here with Hall. Clements opting now, with only a few laps left in this race, to stay out. And I don't think, by looks of it, is looking to fight his teammate whatsoever. Passing the baton over to Richard Hall. Beckoning his teammate then to finish this fight. Down towards the Varianti Tamburello we go then. Now on board. Passing the torch then to Richard Hall. Three minutes then left to go here in Imola. For Race Club UK, a simple objective now, survive Imola at all costs. For them today has been a real challenge. And I think there, with the last of those steps kicked away from them, they're away from the podium. It's a totally VSR and sim play affair inside of that top two rows. Race Club left to inherit the third and fourth and nearly the full fifth row there, from fifth all the way to ninth. Looking at nearby fights as we get to the closing end here of the first chapter of 4 here in the Race Club UK Shooting Stars Cup. We see here with Nick Lamming versus Robert Hogan. This is for 22nd on the field at the moment. Both of them tuck in behind one of these Simplay Motorsports BMWs, I believe. Looking at it there, that is, I want to say that's the number 7. So yeah, that's Thomas Cardno on his way in towards the Aqua Minerale. Well, I suppose the silver lining to the dark cloud that has been the most recent affairs of this performance today between ARL and Race Club UK is the fact that they will still be coming away with considerable points as a team, but much at the chagrin then of what could have been a podium today. We do see continued troubles this time for the 169, so we did just see the yellow flags come out momentarily for Craig Stoddard with Simplay Motorsports Porsche. He's in 21st at this time. And as we see here from Fate Galaxy's point of view, we are about to head on to the final lap here in the first race of the season. So then, the race leader, Fate Galaxy, making his way to the line. He'll start the final lap of racing then here in Imola. We'll catch on with Galaxy at the checkered flag, not far now from seeing the first race of the season go to him. A driver who is no stranger to the front of the field in his own respect when we've seen him over on VSR Season 10. Now carrying the torch forward for the team in their first full Interleague series. You see here for Sean McNally in his fight with Andre Martins. Side by side for 18th place there. McNally goes up to 18th. He'll hold the inside down to Ravazza. So what can the BMW hope to do here? Heading on to that final lap. He'll have the straight line speed on the Nissan, but not to be underestimated. The GTR is quite the bullet in its own respect. So exiting Ravazza, let's see how that one unfolds. Meanwhile, we're keeping an ear out for the 55. The arrival of that AMG we see rolling really slow there. That's the 313. Hang on a tick there. That's Gary Leach. I believe, is he out of fuel? He could be out of fuel. We've seen drivers run out of fuel before here in Imola, and I think it may be the case here for Gary Leach that his car no longer has any fuel, and his race will end a lap short. Heading to the line then, away from that news, on board with the VSR number 55, Fate Galaxy rounds Ravazza for the last time here today in Imola, down towards the line. The first race then of Race Club UK Shooting Stars Cup goes to VSR, courtesy of a glorious drive by Fate Galaxy. What a result for the 55, race winner on start of the season. Kickstarts a wonderful drive here for VSR. Francois St. Ludovic to see second place, a heroic drive for Simplay Motorsports. Then we see the following entourage for VSR. Wishful Winnings has really dug deep for this one. He's been a real trooper in this race today. Third place coming up around the corner for the number 23. We see St. Ludovic to the line. Second place for Simplay Motorsports. And there we see a VSR 1, 3 and 4 inside of that top 5. With to the line here we see Wishful Winnings. And then not far off his trails, Solomon Bosworth in the number 42. A real solid drive here by Bosworth. He started much further down the order, was able to carve his way through the field, leveraging some of the chaos to go on around him. We see heading to the line here, Race Club UK's Richard Hall leads the charge for the team for the top 5. Lamenting on what could have been for the team, Chris Leisch makes his way to the line ahead of Chris Clements. Leisch in 6th, Clements by the looks of it there, 7th. Roel Hermsen for 8th place. We'll take a look at that full result as and when it arrives. Actually, as it stands there, Godden's going to be 7th place. So Roel Hermsen to 8th, Godden 9th, Cairns. What a drive. Honestly, hats off to this one here. In spite of everything that happened for him there, he's still back into the top 10 with the fastest lap. I mean, you got to hand it to him. That was quite something. We'll take a look at that full result in a moment's time. Cardno to the line. And we see Tom Hacker and Lars Rammensperger to the line by 0.3 of a second apart from one another there. And we also saw very close to the line 2 of the other Race Club UK cars, that being Mark Sedgwick and Andy McKay. Well, what a result we've seen then. Fate Galaxy takes the opening win of the Shooting Stars Cup by Race Club UK for Team VSR. Simplay Motorsports pick up a podium position courtesy of Francois St. Ludovic, their ace in the hole for today, picking up where they left off for the 229 that made his way to the top 10 by the end of today's round of the championship. Race Club UK see a car in the top 5 courtesy of Richard Hall, but licking their wounds after the incidents that transpired between themselves and Team ARL in the opening round. They still find themselves with 5 cars inside of that top 10, so really nothing to scoff at too greatly. They hold group majority in those top 10 scoring positions, so they will find themselves more likely than not in the lead of things. We see there the full result come through. So Fate Galaxy wins in Imola. Francois St. Ludovic in 2nd. Then Winnings 3rd. Bosworth 4th. Hall 5th. Leisch in 6th. Clements 7th. Godden 8th. Hermsen 9th. And Cairns in 10th. Then from 11th to 20th, Cardno, Hacker, Rammensperger, Sedgwick, McKay, Wright, Angeletta, McNorley, Martins and Varga. Then from 21st to 30th, Ogan, Lamming, Stothard, Jackal, Betterson, Ampuero, Dominguez, Bender, Butler and Macmillan. Then from 31st to 37th, we have Prince, Leach, Amador, Cummins, and then as it stands there, 10 laps under for Carlos Deesh. That looks to be a possible soft DNF then. And then same story for Lee Evans and Lewis Perslow. Well, nonetheless, what a result then for Team VSR. What a result from 3 of those teams inside of that top 10 there. Trouble for Team ARL. Of course, their ace in the hole was right. Ended up finishing just shy of the top 15, but there's always the next 3 rounds to follow, so don't go anywhere. Still plenty of time for this championship to blossom. Well, it has been certainly quite an exciting opening step. Our next run of the championship here in the Shooting Stars Cup will be taking us to the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Now, to remind you as well, this is all in favour of charity here for Shooting Star Children's Hospice. You can see there in the Twitch chat, and if you're watching here on YouTube, the Just Giving link for the Shooting Stars Cup, the charity we're supporting here. It's a really fantastic cause. It's a much needed service, and I think it's a very special thing to be able to gather behind a charity like this and support the work that they do. I think it's a very vital role in the care industry, and it definitely be worth checking out there as well. What a start to the championship then. Great stuff. A lot of controversy, I must say. A lot of meat on the bones here to pick apart heading in to that second round. We'll be seeing you 2 weeks from now on March 28th at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for round 2 of the championship at the season midway. That's all from us here on TRTN, and that closes out what has been 3 races here on March 14th. We started things off earlier on today with the final round of HCCL Multiclass Season 3. Then you joined us later on in Le Castellet for the second round of the Competizione Performance League World Series. And we round things out today here on the first round of the Shooting Stars Cup by Race Club UK. That's all from us here. Tomorrow, we find ourselves with only one broadcast to find, and that is the season midway of what has been a fantastic run of things so far in arguably the best season of the NLRL Sunday League. You'll join us from the Hungaroring tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. That's all from us here on TRTN. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.